Hi everyone, Christopher Sebo here. Just wanted to say thank you for watching, and not too long ago I did a recent video on a rally for women's reproductive rights, which some of you may or may not have seen. And in the end I gave some perspective on how I felt about this whole issue, which by now all of you have recently heard that the Supreme Court is most likely going to overturn Roe v. Wade, which, if that actually does happen, which it most likely will, that's going to have some serious impacts against people. It is going to compromise the lives and the health and safety of women, not to mention their unborn children. So, before I get started, let me explain my view on all of this. Like, where do I stand? What some people might be wondering. And they might initially assume that, well, you went to one of these rallies, so you must be pro-choice, which means you don't care if there are abortions going on, or some of the mean ones might get crude, like baby killer and all that other stuff. That's not the case. I am both pro-life and pro-choice. Now, a lot of you might think that's a contradiction, but it actually isn't if you think about it, and I'll elaborate. I'm pro-life in the sense that I don't want to see abortions happen at all. I really don't. But on the flip side, I'm not oblivious to some of the realities that go on, that sometimes abortion is necessary. It's not a reality that's easy to accept. It is real nonetheless. Furthermore, being a man, I can't tell women what they can and can't do with their bodies. I just can't. And I'm finding a lot of these pro-lifers happen to be male, especially lawmakers and politicians who think this is the right thing to do. They can obviously never be pregnant or be directly in that situation, so they don't really fully know. And I have spoken to women in the past who have had abortions. I've listened to their stories open-mindedly, without being judgmental, and also being sympathetic. And I can tell you this much, from what they explain, it is not an easy decision to make. It is an even harder process to go through. It's not your average surgery. And abortion has certain emotional effects, that always burdens them. I don't think a lot of these members of the Supreme Court or politicians, let alone pro-lifers in general, really give this much thought. So, there's also other things to consider that are very important, like if it's the case of where a woman is unfortunately raped, or if it's incest, or if it's a high-risk pregnancy, like there are complications, where doctors will tell them that you need to get this abortion. If you don't, you will not survive the pregnancy. You will most likely die. And on top of that, the unborn child will die as well, in which case you don't really have much of a choice there. And if you undo Roe v. Wade, that is going to put a considerable burden on these women, especially in the case that really do need it, for the reasons I've just explained. I really don't think these lawmakers have given that much thought at all. I really don't. I don't really think they've thought about the implications. Most of the arguments I hear from pro-lifers is that, well, once you overturn Roe v. Wade, that'll solve the problem. There will never be an abortion again. That is not true. Nothing could be further from the truth. There will be abortions. There will probably be more abortions. And worse, they might be most likely done illegally by those who are not medical professionals. It won't be safe for the women, and that is where the compromise of their health comes in. So let's think a moment. What are some of the things we can do that can help this situation? Well, in project management, we have something that's called prevention over inspection. And what I mean by that is, during a project you inspect for problems, but you also set up rules, parameters, like certain guidelines to prevent a problem from happening. Basically, you avoid it. That is the best solution. When faced with a problem, you just avoid it altogether so you don't have to make a tough decision. And what are some of the things that we can do? Well, for starters, obviously, we can make birth control more easily and readily available. Birth control is, by all definition, a form of health care. Women need it, whether men choose to accept that or not. It is the truth. They need it. And not just made readily available for women, but for men as well, for couples. So, they can use those and not find themselves in that situation where they have an unwanted pregnancy, where they have to consider getting an abortion. The other thing that can definitely help is education. We have it, but I don't think it's sufficient enough. And sex education, when done right, can do a lot of good, but when done poorly or not at all, it can cause a lot of harm, especially for younger teens. Parents, which I'm sure some of them already do, but talk to your children. I don't just mean your daughters, I mean your sons as well, because they're a part of this equation as well. Talk to them. Make sure they understand. Teach them about birth control. Teach them about sex and about being responsible and respectful towards, each other. I find if you do that, that could also reduce abortions that do occur. I don't know the exact statistics. I don't have any percentage or numbers for you, but from what I've seen and heard is that when abortion is safe, when it's legal and done right, and abortions actually go down. They're not as much as a lot of people want to think. I would love to live in a world where there's never abortion again. That would be great, but unfortunately, that's not thinking realistically. And I don't think these lawmakers have really thought about that. People come to me with the religious reasons. Don't waste my time with that, okay? Nothing against religion or the Bible, I'm all for it, but this goes beyond that because, again, we're talking about the safety of their lives, their unborn children. And also, here's some of the arguments I hear. Well, a woman just has to keep her legs closed, pardon the crude term, and that's all there is to it. I see. So the idea is you want to mandate sex. Okay, we will make it so that couples, straight couples, heterosexual couples, can only and only engage in sex if they intend to have a child for the purpose of having a family. Then they can have sex. Beyond that, no sex allowed. Yeah, good luck with that. You try enforcing that and come back and tell me how that works. So, what do people do if it's a rape victim? Some states are already saying that they're not going to allow abortions at all, no exceptions. And they're also trying to set it up so that if people try to go to another state where it is legal, they can still be criminally charged. Some of them charged with homicide. I don't have the exact specifics, but there are states out there, primarily red states, that are doing that. So what's a person supposed to do? Now, some of them will say, well, just keep the child, put it up for adoption. Mostly men, of course. It's easy for them to say. They don't have to carry a child around for 9 months. They don't have to go through that entire process. Somebody also made the point, what if it was men that actually did that? Would this still be an issue? No. Men wouldn't even think twice about that. There would be abortions, period, and they'd be going about their rights, their freedom, and stuff like that. What about the woman's freedom? Doesn't that mean anything to you? Evidently not, because that's where I say I don't think they've really given this much thought. That's up to and including members of the Supreme Court. I think they're just following an agenda. They don't really care what happens to people. They don't really care what happens to these babies. Let's assume for one moment they're right. It's mostly going to affect poor families, minorities, single mothers who are low income. They're going to be forced to have to carry these children to full term. Let's assume it's not a high-risk pregnancy, but they don't have the money or the resources to raise the child. What happens then? I'm sure there are some programs that do help them, but I don't think there are enough. I think some of them are grossly insufficient. And again, that's something that else could be put into place. I would really sit down and talk to some of these politicians, or more specifically, some of these Supreme Court justices that are all for overturning R. v. Wade, and asks them, what would they do in this situation? I don't want to mention names, but to like some of the males, what would they do if their wife had a high-risk pregnancy? What if, God forbid, their daughter was raped? Something I would never wish on anyone, but hypothetically, what if that were to happen? What would they do? A young woman gets impregnated in a way that she should never get impregnated, is now told, after having one horrific experience, she has to go through it some even more by carrying this child, which she would probably not want to do. Some actually do that. My hat's off to them. I think that's very courageous. But some of them don't, and I understand that. What I can also definitely say is, and they'll never admit it, of course, is that people in power who are wealthy, who have political connections, they will break the law. If this problem is on their doorstep, if somebody close to them, a family member, has an unwanted pregnancy and wants the abortion, they'll get it. They can easily go to another state, call it a vacation, do it discreetly, and then sweep it under the rug. And if it should ever leak out, they'll lie about it, because that's what they do. They lie. That's what the Supreme Court did. They lied. They had their hearings. They didn't say anything about undoing RvW. They just stressed the importance of it. So now that some of them are decided to overturn it, well, they can just use some legal terminology and say, what's it that they like to use? Plausible deniability. That's great. We said one thing, but then we changed our mind. They lied. They don't care. Because again, it's not about right or wrong. It's not about safeguarding the rights of women or American citizens in general. It is about control. They don't care how it affects women. For the ones that do carry their children and can't support it, they don't carry what happens to these newborn babies. The baby isn't born. They're all concerned and everything, but once it's out of the womb, then they wash their hands of it. So, spare me whatever legal argument they want to put together, because we all know for a fact, like I said, if they find themselves in that position, they will go out and get the abortion, and then they'll lie about it. So in the meantime, what can we do if nobody's really thinking of putting preventative measures in place, like some of the examples that I just gave? Keep doing what we're doing now. Keep up with the protests. And I say peaceful protests, of course. Nothing violent, nothing destructive, but get out and vote when the time comes. That's one of the most important things. Volunteer for some of the candidates that are out there that do believe in pro-choice, that do believe in safeguarding a woman's right, that actually do care. Reach out and talk to some of your senators and congressmen, local representatives. Express your outrage. Let them know how you feel. And most importantly, get out and vote. Because in the end, it most likely is going to boil down to us. It is going to boil down to you. The politicians, for the most part, the pro-lifers, they're not going to help you. The Supreme Court's not going to help you. And it's a shame because they should. And if that wasn't enough to convince you, guess what? After Roe v. Wade, once that goes through, once it's overturned, you can bet they're going to go after other rights as well. There's already been talk about the possibility of going after the rights of interracial couples, gay marriage, LGBTQ rights. One of the justices, I don't remember which one, said no, they would never do that. They already lied once, so you can bet they're going to lie again. Their credibility is gone, and it's too bad because the Supreme Court is something we should have faith in. It's something we should look up to do the right thing. So in the end, it's all about you. Get your voice out there, talk to people, go on with protests, get out and vote. Take some course of action, because if you choose to do nothing, then nothing good is going to come out of it. Nothing is going to change. Because in the end, like I said, it's lives that are going to be put at risk. Women will die as a result of this. Unborn babies will continue to die as a result of this. In fact, probably even more when abortion was legal and safe. Talking about our wives, our mothers, our daughters, aunts, close relatives. We're talking about our families here. So that's why I say it is important to do something. It's up to you. In the end, it is always up to you. I hope you understand, and thank you again for watching.